The film begins with a girl named Millie as she arrives at the house of a woman named Nina. We learn that Millie is looking for work and Nina is looking for a maid, so Millie seizes the opportunity and goes to apply for this job. At that time, Nina welcomes her and sits with her to look at her CV. Nina notices that Millie has a university degree, so she tells her that her qualifications are greater than the job. Millie lets her know that she enjoys her work as a maid. Nina begins to introduce her to the required tasks, which are cleaning, cooking, and helping her daughter Cecilia, and shows her all the rooms in the house. She shows her the room where she will sleep, which is on the top floor of the house, but Millie is not comfortable with this room because it is like a prison cell. However, she stays quiet and says nothing to Nina. At the end of the interview, Nina informs Millie that she will think and make her decision soon. Millie leaves the house losing hope that she will get the job, and is forced to sleep in her car because she doesn't have a home. The next morning, the police wake her up and ask her the reason for sleeping in the car. She tells them she was going to her mother's house and stopped to rest for a bit. At that moment, she gets a call, so she tells the police it's her mother. They warn her against using the phone while driving, and they leave. It appears Millie is lying because the call is from Nina, telling her she was accepted for the job and asking her to come to the house to start work. Millie goes to the house quickly, but finds the gate closed. She sees a man named Enzo working in the garden, so she asks him to open for her. Enzo looks at her with strange looks and opens the gate without speaking a word to her. Millie enters the house and is surprised that it is messy, contrary to the first time when the house was organized and clean. Nina notices Millie is not wearing glasses like the first time, so she tells her she doesn't wear them constantly. Afterward, Millie starts her work in the house with vigor and activity. Some time passes, and Andrew, Nina's husband, arrives with their daughter Cecilia. Nina introduces them to each other, and Andrew welcomes her. Later, Millie goes to her room and is upset because the only window in the room doesn't open, and the door has no lock except from the outside. After a while, Nina comes and gives Millie a phone, telling her she loaded bank card details on it in case she needs to buy something. Millie asks her for a key to the door and tells her about the window issue. Nina apologizes and tells her she will solve these problems soon. The next day, Millie wakes up to the sound of Nina screaming and breaking everything in front of her. She asks Millie about her notes for the parent-teacher meeting. Millie says she didn't see these notes, but Nina doesn't believe her and accuses her of being negligent. As soon as Andrew arrives, Nina tells him Millie threw away her notes. Andrew hugs her and tries to calm her down, saying she can write the notes again. Nina calms down but tells Millie that she ruined her day. Millie remains silent, does not respond, and starts cleaning. After Nina leaves, Andrew apologizes to Millie politely and leaves to take his daughter to school. Later, Millie goes out to put the trash in the bin. At that moment, Enzo asks her what she is doing here. She tells him she works as a maid. Enzo wants to tell her something, but sees Nina looking from the window, so he goes silent and leaves Millie. When Millie looks at the window, she finds no one. Later, Millie goes to clean the bathroom and sees a medicine pill in the water. She tries to open the safe behind the mirror to know the type of medicine inside, but suddenly Nina appears. She is startled and closes the mirror quickly, pretending to clean. After finishing, she prepares breakfast for Andrew and Cecilia. Andrew invites her to have breakfast with them, but she refuses. At night, Millie is sitting in her room browsing Andrew's personal profile, and it appears she admires him. Suddenly, Andrew enters with a cake and tells her he brought it specifically for her. At that moment, the two get close to each other, but Millie suddenly wakes up. It appears all of this was a dream. Millie goes down from her room to prepare food, and suddenly Nina appears from behind her in a scary way and gives her the key to her room so she can lock herself in and feel safe. The next day, Millie is leaving the house, but Nina stops her and asks where she is going. Millie tells her today is her day off and reminds her they wrote that in the contract. But Nina tells her she needs her today for a lot of work as punishment for losing the notes. Millie gets upset and says she has an important meeting and must attend, asking for just 2 hours of rest to return. Nina refuses and insists on her opinion. Here comes Andrew. He doesn't like what Nina is doing with Millie, so he asks her to let Millie go. Nina is forced to agree for Andrew's sake. Millie leaves the house and goes to the police station, specifically to the probation and parole department. We learn here that Millie just got out of prison after serving 10 years on a murder charge and is currently under supervision. The officer reminds her she must watch her behavior, have a job and a house to stay in, or she will serve the remaining 5 years of her sentence in prison. Millie gives her Nina's house address and says she worked as a maid there. Later, Millie gets a call from Nina asking her to pick up Cecilia from ballet class. Millie goes quickly to the ballet class location so as not to be late. There she meets a woman named Susanna. Millie tells her she is looking for Cecilia. At that time, Cecilia comes and says she will spend the day at the house of Emma, Susanna's daughter. Millie is surprised because her mother, Nina, didn't say so. Susanna calls Nina in front of her, and Nina confirms that Cecilia will go with her. Millie leaves them and returns to the house, confused and not understanding anything. As soon as she reaches the house, she finds Evelyn, Andrew's mother, present, showing Nina the china set she brought. Nina is surprised by what Millie did and insists she told her Cecilia would stay at her friend's today. Millie remains silent and doesn't respond. Nina introduces her to Evelyn, who doesn't like Millie's way of dressing and speaks to her with arrogance and haughtiness, blaming Nina for allowing the maid to wear immodest clothes. Afterward, Evelyn tells Millie that she inherited this china set from her mother and her mother from her grandmother, explaining it is very expensive and must be kept in a safe place so Nina doesn't break it. At that moment, Andrew arrives, greets his mother, and notices the china set she brought. At night, Millie is unable to sleep, so she goes downstairs and watches TV. She is surprised that Andrew is awake. Andrew goes to sit with her, and at that time, Andrew informs her that Nina's parents died in a fire that happened in their house when Nina was only 8 years old. He hints that Nina was the cause of the fire because she hated her parents for unknown reasons. Suddenly, Nina enters and asks what Andrew is doing here at 2 a.m. Andrew explains the situation, says goodbye to Millie, and leaves. However, Millie notices Nina is jealous and upset. Nina surprises her by saying this situation won't work and that she must pack her bags and leave. Millie begs her to change her mind because she needs the job, asking for a second chance. Nina gives her a 1-week trial chance and asks her to wear appropriate clothes in the house. Before Millie leaves, Nina stops her and tells her to stay away from Andrew and not try to get close to him. The next day, Nina is sitting with her friends at home and tells them she will get a nanny soon. They all think she is pregnant and start congratulating her, but Nina says she isn't pregnant, just trying to prepare for the matter. Millie is standing there hearing this. At that moment, a call comes for Nina, and she asks to step out to talk in the garden. Before leaving, she asks Millie to pour tea for the guests. Nina's friends start talking about her, mentioning Andrew's handsomeness and elegance, saying he deserves someone much better than Nina, especially since Nina spent 9 months in a mental hospital. At that moment, Nina returns, and they all go silent. At night, Millie sits in her room writing her diary, saying she is shocked that Nina turned out to be crazy, and that this explains her strange behavior. Suddenly, Nina enters and asks her to take care of Cecilia on Saturday because she has an appointment with Andrew in the city. Millie agrees, even though Saturday is her day off. On Saturday, Millie takes advantage of the house being empty, goes to the bathroom, looks at the medicines behind the mirror, and is surprised to find medicine for people with mental disorders. Afterward, Millie calls her friend and asks her to help find another job. Cecilia returns from school and asks if she is leaving. Millie ends the call quickly, denies she is leaving, changes the subject, and asks Cecilia if she wants to eat. She tells her she is trying to open a conversation to be friends, but Cecilia says that doesn't have to happen, and leaves. At night, Andrew talks to Millie in the kitchen alone, saying he wants many children and letting her know he loves Cecilia even though she isn't his daughter. He says he married Nina when Cecilia was 5 years old. After they finish talking, they go to sleep. In the middle of the night, Millie wakes up to the sound of Nina screaming. She goes down quickly and hears Andrew and Nina fighting. She knocks on the door to check on them. Suddenly, Nina opens the door holding a knife, her hands wounded and bleeding. Millie is worried and calls for Andrew to check on him. Nina laughs and asks if she heard her friend saying she is crazy and doesn't deserve her husband. Here comes Andrew, calms Nina, takes the knife, and closes the door. The next day, Nina apologizes to Millie for what happened last night and gives her some of her dresses as a gift. At first, Millie refuses, but Nina insists, so Millie agrees. Afterward, Nina asks Millie to book 2 tickets for a play she intends to attend with Andrew on Saturday, and also book a hotel room for a romantic night together. Nina says she wants to compensate Andrew for the tension of yesterday. Later, we see Millie waiting for Cecilia at ballet class and meeting a woman who tells her a strange story about Nina, saying Nina tried to drown Cecilia in the bathtub when she was little. At that time, Andrew called the police, saved the girl, and requested a medical examination for Nina. The woman is surprised Millie doesn't know the story since the whole city knows it. Millie is shocked. As soon as she returns home, she asks Enzo what he knows about this family. Enzo replies telling her she shouldn't be here at all. Millie is surprised and asks why he says that, but Nina interrupts their conversation and asks Millie to leave Enzo alone and not talk to him again. Millie gives her the tickets she booked for the play and the hotel. Nina asks who asked her to do that. Millie is shocked and says she, Nina, asked her. Nina denies this and says she would never ask her to book these tickets because on that day she is going to Washington to attend an arts camp with her daughter Cecilia. She says the tickets are non-refundable, so she will deduct the price from her salary. Millie is surprised and says she can't pay that amount. Andrew arrives, and Nina tells him what happened. Andrew calms her and asks her to call the credit card company to cancel the operation, but Nina refuses and enters the house. Andrew reassures Millie and tells her she won't pay anything. Saturday comes, and Nina and Cecilia leave the house. At that time, Andrew tells Millie he couldn't return the tickets and gives them to Millie, telling her to go spend the day with anyone she knows, saying he will bear the full cost. But Millie says there is no one in her life to go with. Andrew offers for them to go together and spend the night together, and she agrees. Afterward, Millie wears one of Nina's dresses. As soon as Andrew sees her, he is impressed by her beauty. After they finish the play, they have dinner together. Andrew says he manages a technology company he inherited from his father, and also says he wants to be a father and have a child to carry his name. He tells her he loves Nina, but her personality has changed recently. Millie sympathizes with him and feels the extent of the suffering he lives with Nina. As soon as Andrew asks her to dance, she agrees without hesitation. At the end of the evening, they go to the hotel to spend a night there. However, as soon as Millie enters the room, she gets many messages from Nina saying if she doesn't respond, she is considered fired. Millie is confused and tells Andrew that Nina wants to ruin her life for no reason. Andrew reassures her that he won't let her lose her job. Afterward, they get close and spend the night together. The next day, they return home before Nina returns from her trip. When Nina returns, she finds Millie preparing lunch. While they are eating, Nina asks Millie if she learned cooking in prison and tells Andrew that Millie was imprisoned for 10 years. Millie is shocked and doesn't know how to respond. Andrew appears disappointed because Millie wasn't honest with him. But Nina changes the subject and gives Millie her car keys, asking her to go buy some things from the supermarket. There, Millie meets one of Nina's friends. When she sees her, she asks about the phone she has. Millie is surprised by her words. The woman says she is happy she trusts Nina because most nannies don't like to carry a phone monitored by the homeowners. Millie is shocked because this means Nina knew everything happening. As soon as she leaves the supermarket, she finds the police arresting her, informing her the car she has was reported stolen. But Andrew comes, talks to the police, takes Millie, and they return home. Here, Nina accuses Andrew of having a relationship with Millie and accuses Millie of stealing her clothes, saying she will report her to the police and send her back to prison. Millie says she gave her the clothes herself and insisted she take them, but Nina gets angry and kicks her out of the house. Andrew intervenes, yells at Nina, and says she is not allowed to ruin this poor girl's life. He also says he is tired of her and her behavior, letting her know she no longer has a place in his life and kicks her out of the house. Nina gets angry, hits Millie on the face, and leaves. Andrew calms Millie and says she will stay with him in the house. Afterward, they spend the whole day together enjoying their time. The next day, Millie prepares breakfast for Andrew in a plate from his mother's china set, but she is startled when she sees Enzo looking at her from the door. The plate falls and breaks. Andrew comes quickly at the sound. Millie tells him what happened. Andrew gets angry, goes to Enzo, and tells him he is fired. Afterward, Millie apologizes to Andrew for the expensive plate. Andrew reassures her and asks her not to throw away the broken pieces because he knows a specialist who can reassemble it. Millie collects the broken pieces, happy that Andrew wasn't angry. After Andrew goes to work, she walks around the house laughing because she feels comfort and safety. When Andrew returns, he takes her and they spend the night in her room. The next day, Millie wakes up to find everything in the room gone and the door locked from the outside. She keeps knocking and calling for Andrew. Andrew is standing on the other side of the door. Millie asks him to open. He says he will do so, but not now. Millie is shocked by Andrew's behavior and discovers he is mentally ill too. Here we go back in events to the time Nina left the house. At that time, Nina stops her car at the gate and suddenly screams with joy and leaves the house in extreme happiness. Afterward, we see her in another place beginning to write her diary, telling her life story. We learn Nina's parents died when she was 8 due to a house fire. Nina says she had nothing to do with the fire at all, as Andrew was saying, because she loved her parents and was sad about their death. Afterward, she lived in a care home and faced many problems, but she was strong, overcame them, and got a scholarship to law school. There she fell in love with her professor, they married, and had Cecilia. But her husband dies shortly after their daughter's birth. Nina is forced to leave her studies and work as a secretary in a big company. There she meets Andrew in a meeting with the company owner. After the meeting, Andrew talks to her nicely and praises her for being a hardworking woman. Nina says she couldn't resist the attraction of a handsome, rich young man like Andrew, besides the kind treatment he gave her. Thus, she agreed to marry him after only 6 days of their relationship. One day, Andrew notices something unnatural in her hair and asks her to go to a beauty center and fix this defect immediately. When she returns, Andrew asks what she did. She says the paper she wrote her notes on was lost, which is why she forgot to go do her hair. He asks her to look for it in the room upstairs. Nina goes there and is surprised that Andrew locked the door on her. He says her hair is a blessing, and she must care for it more, letting her know this is a mistake she must be punished for. He gives her an envelope from under the door and asks her to pull 100 strands of her hair and keep each strand pulled from its roots. Nina collapses, keeps screaming, and tries to exit from the window, but discovers it doesn't open. There is nothing in the room but a fridge with water and a bucket to use as a toilet. Nina is forced to execute Andrew's words, pulls 100 strands of hair, puts them in the envelope, and gives it to Andrew from under the door. Andrew opens for her. As soon as she exits, she runs to her daughter Cecilia, but suddenly gets dizzy and faints. We learn Andrew put a sedative in the water she drank in the room. When Nina wakes up, she finds her daughter in the bathtub about to drown. She runs to save her. At that moment, the police arrive and arrest Nina, thinking she uses drugs and tried to get rid of her daughter. Nina knows no one will believe her, so she is forced to confess to her mistake to get a reduced sentence and see her daughter again. Because of this, Nina enters a mental hospital for 9 months. After leaving, all the people in the city see Andrew as the loyal husband to his crazy wife. The problem is Andrew refuses to let Nina take her daughter and leave. During the period Nina lived with Andrew, she discovers Enzo sympathizes with her. Enzo tries to help her and forge passports for her and her daughter to escape Andrew, but Andrew discovers them and returns her to the hospital again. During this period, Nina notices Andrew has a weakness. He loves to appear before people as a person with high morals who sympathizes with anyone in need of help, and he has a sense of possession for any woman he likes. Through research, she sees Millie's file, and that Millie is a beautiful girl in need of work, so she is very suitable for this mission. From here, Nina begins to set her plan to escape Andrew. In the present time, Andrew calls Millie from behind the door, saying the plate she broke shattered into 21 pieces. He gives her a piece of the plate from under the door and asks her to use the piece to make 21 wounds on her stomach. Millie gets angry and hits the door hard. She remembers a memory from high school, saying she was imprisoned before because of a handsome rich boy like Andrew who she saw assaulting her classmate. She hit him on the head until he died. At that time, she was sentenced to 15 years but came out after 10. When Millie wakes from her memories, she finds a small knife Nina had hidden inside this room. Millie understands Nina knows this will happen to her. She takes the knife and keeps it. Afterward, she does exactly what Andrew asked while screaming from the pain. After she finishes, Andrew enters and tries to calm her, saying he loves her and wants to live with her, but letting her know any mistake will be punished. But Millie stabs him with the knife in his neck and leaves him in pain, takes his phone, exits, and locks the door on him quickly. Millie notices Andrew is monitoring the room through a surveillance camera. She leaves him screaming and asking her to open, and she goes to eat. After finishing, she takes the whole china set, goes up to Andrew and gives him a pair of pliers from under the door, ordering him to pull out one of his teeth to ruin his smile that he brags about to women. Andrew yells and refuses. Millie starts throwing the expensive plates on the ground and breaking them. Andrew gets angry and tries to break the door but can't. Here, Millie pours gasoline from under the door and threatens to set him on fire. Andrew gets scared and pulls out his tooth with the pliers. Andrew asks her to open the door since he listened to her words. She says she will do so, but not now. She leaves him and goes down to watch TV for a bit. At that time, Nina arrives at the house. It appears she felt her mistake with Millie and came to warn her and try to save her. As soon as she sees the light of the room upstairs, she remembers Andrew locked Millie inside. She enters the house and goes up quickly to free her. Here, Millie feels movement in the house and goes up after Nina, trying to catch her before she opens the door, but time is too late. Andrew exits the room, hits Nina, and knocks her to the ground. Afterward, he runs after Millie and catches her, wanting to finish her off, but Millie hits him hard and runs out of the house. Andrew returns to Nina and apologizes for everything wrong he did, saying he still loves her and can't live with anyone else, trying to convince her to live together again. But she refuses and says he is a sick person who needs treatment. Andrew gets angry, tries to push her, and she falls from the upper floor. At that moment, Millie arrives and pushes Andrew from that height. He dies instantly. Here, Nina asks Millie to escape, saying she will take the blame. She unscrews a bulb from the chandelier and throws it next to Andrew's body, letting her know she will tell the police Andrew was changing the bulb, lost his balance, fell, and died. Millie says surely the police won't believe this. Nina lets her know she has no other solution. Millie says goodbye, puts Andrew's tooth next to his body, and leaves. After a while, the police come and interrogate Nina. It appears the policewoman is not convinced by the story. Nina gets nervous and says that's what happened. But the policewoman surprises her and says she knows the truth about Andrew because Andrew was engaged to her sister Katie 8 years ago. After 5 months of their relationship, her sister entered a mental hospital because of what he did to her. The policewoman says she will record the crime as just a domestic accident and closes the case. On the day of Andrew's funeral, Nina attends with Andrew's mother and her daughter Cecilia. At that time, Millie comes to check on Nina and her daughter. Nina hugs her and gives her a check for $100,000 to start a new life. After a period, Millie goes to another interview to work as a maid. The woman interviewing her says Nina is the one who recommended her for this job. While they are talking, the woman starts playing with a set of knives in front of her to let Millie see the bruise on her hand, saying her husband treats her badly, and asks if she can help and save her from the life she is in. Millie agrees and asks when they will start work. The film ends,